Welcome to Interviews with Innocence, a podcast about spirituality, consciousness, and exploring the wisdom our children bring into this world. I believe that our very young children are our greatest teachers. After all, they're the masters of living in the present moment, bubbling in unconditional love, enjoying the messiness of life, and curious about the universe in all its dimensions. The pure essence that young children exhibit lives within all of us. My hope is that these interviews will help us discover, embrace, and connect with the sacred core of childhood that resides within each of our hearts. I am your host, Marla Hughes. Today, I'm really excited to have my dear friend, Kevin Lewis, on the program. Kevin and I met in, where were we, Kevin? We were out in the middle of nowhere.
We were in the middle of nowhere. Stormy.
Yes, very stormy.
Stormy night. One stormy night.
One stormy night when we were doing a seance and physical mediumship in England, in Europe. And it was, we just met and totally connected. So, so Kevin talks about from his earliest of childhood memories that he had the ability to communicate with spirit. His mediumship, psychic, and healing abilities have continued to unveil with each day and experience. His deepest intention is to help others, an intention that is so deep-rooted, he considers it his calling. He considers himself a natural-born empath and healer. He relies on and trusts that spirit will always provide him with what is needed most, whether it's a message from a loved one, psychic guidance, or deep healing. His unwavering integrity and commitment is to spirit and his clients. And when you get a reading, you will leave it impacted by their love. So welcome to the program, Kevin. It's so great to see you again.
You too, Marla. Thank you so much.
Yes. I know it's taken a while to go back and forth, mostly my fault. So I'm sorry about that.
Oh, goodness. I always think these things, they line up. I've had readings before where the logistics of it are sometimes the most complicated part.
Right.
And then when we get together, it's like, it couldn't be more perfect.
Yeah.
Things just fall. It does, so I never look at it as, it always seems to be divine. And when we actually get together. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So tell us about how this journey started. I know as a child, you were very sensitive and intuitive. So let's just go for it.
Yeah, it's so funny because I don't actually spend a lot of time talking about myself. I have to say that. Well, so it's actually totally is. So it's like it's not my most favorite. But I do have to say with you, Marla, I feel so comfortable. You have that energy and way about you that is just such pure love. And you're right, we did connect. We were outside the gates and it was a stormy night. And you were just one of the most lovely human beings that I've ever met. And I know it was brief, but I just want to share that with your audience that what you see is what you get. And it just is so inviting. So thank you. I don't not have a memory of being connected or feeling that there was something, bigger and greater than myself in my life, and as a kid, I was really sensitive. And I didn't really know what that meant. And, some of the adults in my life didn't know how to manage that or support it. They tried. But in hindsight, I've never felt, a time that I wasn't, supported and surrounded by spirit, guided, given the signs, able to communicate, and I have to say, I think we all have that innate ability. You do by nature. And sometimes things get complicated and things are challenging. But if we can, find a quiet place, no matter what age we're at, and really bring our attention to the moment, the present moment, spirits all around us, you know, it just never, it's never not there. So as a child, you know, as a young adult, through my teenage years, you know, it's looked different through those times. Sometimes the more I pushed it away, the more it actually pushed right back in my face. And sometimes the more I actually wanted it to appear or to accelerate and unveil quicker, the slower it would go. So, you know, there's just a part of me that surrenders at this point in my life to really just being grateful for however it looks. And, you know, it continues to change, and there's, you know, similar things that show up and new things that appear. And I just really feel grateful every moment, every reading that I do. I couldn't be more blessed. So.
Right. So when you were a child, how did spirit show up for you? Did you actually, of course, when you're a child, it's much easier, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But how did you see things or have invisible friends?
Yeah. Actually, both. I mean, I remember, I think there was, if I could actually pinpoint a time in my life where it was the most fearful, I would say as a child, I would say that those are the parts where it felt the most fearful because it was new, if you will. So
Right.
things that I was experiencing, and as I'm saying that, I almost feel like I'm the kind of person that will change my mind after I said it, because it's like, you know, there were fearful moments, but I wasn't completely
Yeah.
filled with fear as a child. But there were things that were new to me, if you will, that I was unsure of, you know, and I would check in with my friends or my family, and they just wouldn't get it. You know, for example, I had imaginary friends, and I could see them. You know, I would experience them like you and I sitting here, but other people didn't. So when I would check in to see, you know, if they were able to see them, they didn't. So I don't know. I think there's a bit of loneliness in it at certain points of the unveiling, until we can kind of understand it, and maybe we've experienced it a little more frequent. But I was able to see spirit. I could feel them around. You know, I had close connections with a lot of adults, in particular my grandmother. And she was very spiritually inclined, and you wouldn't call her a medium in those days, but she was definitely able to communicate with spirit and had countless stories that she loved to share with people that were interested. And I think I was at the top of the list. So
Wow.
I was just curious, you know, bottom line, I was curious as a kid.
It makes such a difference when you have someone like that in your life. Definitely. So, did you feel different from other kids, or was it just
Totally.
you did? Did
I
that
still do.
I do too. I always say, I really don't
Join
fit
the
in
club.
this world.
Me neither. I know. That's why I think when people like us meet one another, there's just that connection and there's that likeness that we kind of go like, those are our people. And we don't have to know them
Right.
for 100 years, but it's like
So
there's
true.
that attraction that's like, it's undeniable. So yeah, I grew up feeling very different, you know, for various reasons. And I think in that, it's like, you know, working with spirit is I feel so honored. And there's such a responsibility that goes along with it, that at a young age, it's like that can be overwhelming. And we don't, you know, there's lots of kids and parents and in inquiry that I get that, you know, my son or my daughter or my child has these tendencies or these curiosities, and should we explore them? And sometimes I think we have to actually develop a bit more maturity before we start diving into, you know, the world of spirit and spirit connection, if you will.
Right.
Even though we're not disconnected, we're always connected, but just I think that it takes a bit of maturity to actually handle some of it, because you can be left feeling really different. and lonely because not everybody understands. So.
Right. So what do you say to those parents when they're obviously coming to you either concerned or curious?
Yeah.
What do you say?
I mean, I love it that it's a conversation, that
Right,
kids
right.
feel comfortable to just come to their parents, whether it be like mom or dad or, a sibling or a grandparent or somebody that they can actually just have a conversation so that
Yeah.
they can learn that it's very normal. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Things that don't feel normal are some of the most normal things. So in that early stage, just the conversation, the validation that
The
they are,
validation.
we need to be reinforced that mom and dad might not have all the answers, or the parents might not have all the answers, but that, some people do. So maybe parents can, reach out to, somebody that might be a little bit more inclined, have a bit more information.
Right.
Let there be exploration, I would say, but baby steps.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. So
yeah.
when you began your mediumship, because what I've learned is that you're right, we all have the ability, but it's like a muscle. You
Mm,
have to really exercise it,
sure.
regularly, and it takes commitment, dedication to spirit, all of that, and as it should. So, did you have like an aha moment where just a progression at first, since you were so used to seeing and hearing from spirit, did it
Hmm.
come naturally to you, or at times in the beginning, did you question yourself? Did you have any
Hmm.
ahas like, oh my gosh, that was like more real than real?
Right. The big one I think that stands out initially, and although I wasn't like a practicing medium, I was 14 and my grandma wasn't well, and my parents had went out of town to visit my grandma, and they came back and she was doing a lot better. And so, they shared that with us, that she was doing so much better. And it was the middle of the night, I don't know what time, and she appeared at the end of my bed and she told me that she was going to be leaving for a while. And I said, okay. And I got curious and I said, well, where are you going? And she said, well, she goes, I'm not too sure, but don't worry. She assured me, don't worry. She said, you'll see me again. And I said, okay. And I was kind of like, I remember it so vividly because it was like, my first actual visitation from
Right.
someone that I knew. And so she said to me, she actually played out what was going to happen. And she said, the next morning, she said, the phone is going to ring and your aunt's going to call to say that I've left for a while. And that's what she said. She didn't say that she was going to die or
Yeah.
pass or, transition. She said that I'm going to leave for a while. I'm 14 years old. So she's probably, you know what I mean? They're just so intelligent and they're
Right.
able to, they have all the words. They teach us so much. So how she phoned how my aunt phoned and relayed that she had passed, and all the details that went with it, I had already known. So when my mom and dad gathered, I said to them, and I started to say, like, this is, what's happening. They were like, well, how do you know that? And I said, well, she was here last night. And they were just like, they were blown away because it's like I was sharing intimate details of exactly how she said she was going to do it, what time, how my mom was going to walk down the hallway. I would hear them crying, they would come back out and they would say, we had some news to share. So in it, I just felt I wasn't afraid.
Right.
There was no fear around it. I felt completely calm and at peace with what she was sharing. And I knew, and I still do, that I'll see her again.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and in that, I think I've got off topic to what your question was, but I think that was my first big, like, hey, something's different about me. And
Right.
so from there, I think I'll fast forward probably to, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago. And one of my friends, she actually showed up to get her hair done. And she said, you know what? She said, there's a couple of local mediums that are doing some workshops. Are you interested in going? And I said, no, like I was fully in the closet. I was like, Marla, I couldn't even say the word spirit out loud. You know what I mean? So I was completely in the closet. If I ever, I was definitely not comfortable with like acknowledging that part. But she says, this is her recall. She said she just saw something in me. And so about, I don't know, 8 months later, she said, hey, do you remember those 2 ladies that I said that we're going to do these workshops? They're doing them again. Are you interested? And those times, I know we've all had it where it's like, when she asked the question, it just lit me up. And I knew that it was the right time. And so I said, I'm really interested. I didn't even really know what it was all about. And so I have to say, from that point, which was about 6 years ago, it's like, I feel like it's been 10 lifetimes in the last 6 years of learning and experience. It's right. It's so magnificent. It's so magnificent. So yeah, I feel like those 2 moments really stand out as pivotal, and the more recent of the 2, it takes a commitment and a dedication, like anything, I think we're actually all born very intuitive, which is about, things about ourselves we can tune into. We're all very psychic. We can pick up on other people's energy. Yes. And then there's people that are, have the ability to do mediumship, which is connect with spirit. So, or have spirit communication, of people that have passed. Yes. So in that, I think the last 6 years has just been a dedication, an exploration, and an unveiling of what I feel is naturally, just a part of who I am. So, yeah.
That's so, so beautiful. And you are a psychic, you're a medium, and you're a healer.
I am.
So do people come to you and say, well, I want a psychic reading, or I'd like a little bit of both, or and we'll get to the healing in a second, but how does that work?
Great question. Sometimes I feel like the setup is everything in everything, you know what I mean? And so letting people know what we do, what it is, a lot of times people aren't even sure of what would a psychic reading be? What's a mediumship reading? So education, those little tidbits that might be really clear for us, a lot of people don't know. So I think that it's really important to let people know what exactly a reading looks like, what to expect. What questions to ask, what I actually do and what I don't do, in order to, I think that, there's certain people that are meant to come to me. Yes. And there are certain people that are meant to come to you. And there's certain people that are meant to come to the next reader, the medium, psychic. And so, with a reading, I would say that, I'm just trying to think, it's probably, I would say consistently, I have such a deep trust in spirit, Marla, that I don't think our clients always know what they need. They might have this list of, this is what I want. This is what I want to know in my life, whether it be career or, relationship, or there are certain things about their personal life. They might have a specific relative or loved one that they want to have communication with. But I feel like the spirit world is they're so much more intelligent than we could ever be. And so because I have such a deep trust in that, I allow them to work through me to give the client what they need. And sometimes it's contrary to what they actually thought that they were there for. So I just really, I would say for the most part, I set my clients up that if they can come with an open mind, and if I'm prompted by spirit to say, you know what, we're going to spend some time on the healing table, or we're going to focus more on psychic, or we're going to, you know, have some loved one communication. Most common, it's all of it, which I absolutely love. I know that that's always what's best.
Right. And what kind of healing is it? Is it energy healing, or we call it Reiki, or what kind of healing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that was part of my exploration, that because I'm so ethical, and I live in Canada, so we don't have a governing like association for mediumship. And so it's all for medium and psychic work is all for entertainment purposes. And so some people don't really take that, you know, with the set of ethics that they should, unfortunately. I'm really, really clear on, you know, my integrity and the ethics that I have in any job that I do is first and foremost. So especially in work of mediumship and psychic and healing, you know, it's non-negotiable. It has to be there. And so I had that little tap on the shoulder about 4 years ago to explore the Reiki. And it just happened, as it does, that there was one spot left in the Reiki level 1 class. So I took it, and then I got addicted. So it went hand in hand with the readings that I did, because as soon as I would put my hands, I do the Asui style of Reiki, and I've since become a Reiki master and teacher. And with that, when I would put my hands on clients, the mediumship was heightened, the psychic readings were heightened. So it was like, to me, it was just like the coming home of what I needed to follow. Right. And so so I explored that, and then I've since taken some of the classes in the UK. They which they're very strict there, which I absolutely love. You know, you have to have a license, and things are very governed, and you know, you have to have a lot of training. But they also do Reiki, but they do spiritual healing, which is if Reiki was the universal connection to healing, the spiritual healing would be direct connection to the spirit world. And for me, I try not to get too complicated in it. I feel like healing is healing. And you know what I mean? If we get so, and maybe some people need to do this, and that's totally great. For me, I try to not get too hung up on the detail of, if I'm connecting to universal, if it's connecting to spirit, I'm connected to, you know, the greater, and you know, the source of that is love, and, you know, is so divine that I don't get caught up in the little kind of the branches of it, if you will. The healing.
I've heard of the Asui. I do know I was taking some classes with Nick from Banyan Retreat.
Oh, okay.
And he has a whole healing, you know, program with energy work. So do you do that on Skype now, or on Zoom, the healing work?
I have, yeah. And that's the thing. At first I was so resistant, because I was like, you know, we have to get out of our own way. And I'm not comfortable on the computer as far as all the technology and all of that. And, you know, in the last year and a half, I had a choice. You know, I could, you know, continue to do things. And obviously that was through our technology. And I mean, energy is energy. So if we can make that connection and we set our intention, I have to say, sometimes those sessions, I don't want to say they're better, but sometimes they're even better. You know, people are in the comfort of their own home. They're not worried about getting a parking spot and showing up and, you know, all of that. They're just comfortable, you know, as am I. So in that, I think I've had some of the most beautiful healing distant sessions through technology, which is, you know, wonderful.
Very cool. So do you have a few like stories for us? Maybe a mediumship story that,
oh boy,
that, you know, when you hung up from that call or walked out of and you're like, Oh my gosh.
Right.
And yeah, do you have a story for
Oh
us?
boy. I'm just trying to think. I mean, every single reading that I've ever done, Marilla, without stretching it, I feel so, it's something that I kind of kept hidden for a while, is that I didn't want to take away from my client's experience, in that, they were so profoundly moved. And I would kind of keep quiet. And I'm thinking, sometimes I was holding back the tears. And sometimes I was thinking how spirit has this ability, to heal and give love and present things and give knowledge and learning, and support, not only to the client but to us. In that role, I feel like we're so, dually, taken care of, that I feel like that, like, in every session that I've done, the takeaways are just like, I could go on and on about every one. um, Sometimes spirit is so clear, and as you know, like, some people have the gift of communication, and in the spirit world there's no difference. And so some of them, I'm just left going, I'll hang up, or the client will leave, and I'm just so blown away about the detail, the intimate things that are current in their life, that they're showing us, to show that they're still with us. Number one, clients want to know, are their loved ones okay? And they, without a doubt, I just know, it's no longer just the belief. I have such a deep knowing that they are, and being able to, share with them. And, it's like a connection, that it's like, when my client leaves, I feel like I'm saying goodbye to my friends that I've made in an hour. That, I feel that I've shared a part of their life, and I feel so honored for that. Yeah, I mean, spirit blows me away. The validations and the details and the specifics. It's wonderful, but I think when I'm left with, in reflection, that I'll have a client, and they will feel, and I will feel the presence of their loved one. To me, that there's nothing greater than that.
Yeah.
There really isn't. We could have 100 validations of all the details of names and specifics and dates and all of that, and it's wonderful, and that's necessary to establish we've got a connection. But when you sit there and you feel the closeness of their loved one, and the client feels that, to me, Marla, oh, it's like, I'm so filled with, joy.
Right.
So filled with joy.
And having that deep knowing, is so, oh, just comforting and beautiful. How do you feel that knowing what you've always known, but now this is part of your profession, or this is your profession, this is who you are. It shouldn't even, profession is such a hard, a cold word, your life's path.
Right. Yeah.
Um, how do you think that we could use the knowledge that we have to help our young children? I mean, did you feel like as a child when you were being validated, because that's a huge part of your early experience. I mean, even at 14, when you were receiving these visions in your grandma, so that you were just validated, did that help you have more inner guidance and strength, and just a knowing that you had others to help you that were unseen?
Yeah. I mean, it makes me think that, we can look at it in one way and think that we're gathering and learning and, having our experiences and, adding things to us. Another way of looking at that is, it's unveiling something that's there by nature. And so
Right.
looking at it now is the remembering of who we are and who we've always been and who we will continue to be. That I think is, it's instrumental, in these times, and I've got 4 young nephews, and I've got, countless clients with children,
right.
And friends that have kids and teenagers. And I was saying yesterday to a client, I said, you know what? I said, like, it's hard for an adult to live in this world at times. And, for our young kids and our, the youth, it's like, they just, I feel like there's just so much there for them. And I feel like they're here to teach us so much. And I don't know if this goes to what you're asking in your question, but it's like, being different, and we're all different in so many beautiful ways, but being different can be, really hard. Right. And, it's just something that I think that, when we tell our story and we share, we make things that sometimes are uncomfortable and hard and really not nice. We make them normal, you know what I mean? And natural, in the sense that we're not alone in it. You know what I mean? In our sharing, it's like we recognize that, people go through so much of what we're going through. There's so many similarities. And so in that, I think that that's, just, it's so important that we share where we're at, in that feeling of being different. There's so much out there that's available for people to, to get the help, to get the understanding, to feel like they're not alone, right. In that difference. So, yeah.
So the people your clients, both with your, Kevin does hair. He's a do you call it a hairdresser still, or
yeah, hairdresser, hairstylist,
hairstylist,
yeah,
hairstylist. So with those clients, and also with your spiritual clients, do they share with their children, not after they have a reading, but do you feel like they're more open with them to open up the discussion, that there is something more, and that one can, I think it's so important for children, especially, once again, even though they already know, but to help them remember, um, that they can still connect. I mean, those that went past are still right here, and they still can connect. And yeah, it's so
a perfect example, Marla, is yesterday. It's so great how things, spirit works in such wonderful ways. And I have a client I was mentioning to you early that in my hometown, where I call it my hometown now, been here since the late 90s. But I started hairdressing in 2001. And in that, some of the clients that I had back from those early years, I came back to this city after being away for 5 years. And I not only see them, but I see their children. And literally yesterday, my last client in the salon was a daughter of one of my original clients that I had in the first year or two of my hairdressing. And she stood there and she said to me, she was coaching me, to be quite frank. She was coaching me in some stuff. And it was just so moving. And she has so much to offer. She's brilliant in her own. And she said to me, because I said, she was offering to do something for me. And I said, okay, but I said, I will work out what that looks like. I said, in exchange. And she said, Kevin, she goes, what you've done for me and my family, she said, I would be honored to do this for you. It makes me emotional thinking about it. Yeah. But it's like, that's the relationship that I love, the trust that I've developed with her mom and her dad and her 4 children. It's like they're, I won't mention names, but it's so common that my clients will send me their children, and it's not always for and sometimes it is a mediumship reading, but healing and just, spiritual guidance and support and understanding. It fills me up. I love it.
I wonder if that's more, I don't want to use the word acceptable, but if parents or caregivers do that more in Canada than they do in the United States, because yeah, I don't hear of that very often, and it's so important.
Wow.
Spiritual
Oh,
guidance and
wow.
counseling,
Yeah.
yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that is
I've got friends that are there. I can't remember specifically where this came from. If I remember, I'll mention, but they're, oh, it was a medium that's in Europe, and she's got a podcast, and she was sharing that she's working side by side by a grief counselor. And so, you know what I mean? Like, just, and demographic always plays a role. And
right,
in it, it's like, some of the value that's there for spiritual advisors and mediums and healers. It works, yeah, we need our grief counselors, and yes, we need all of medical and all of that, but the other side of it is a side that sometimes doesn't get reached or understood. So in that, absolutely, it's curious. I think that's important that came up today,
yeah,
for people, that those
absolutely.
resources, sometimes we have to look, further than our own backyard to get it, but they're definitely out there, and especially for our young ones.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've started a new project, and I, researched near-death experiences extensively, and mediumship, and many stories that children have told after they've come back after
Right.
a drowning or something like that. And I was in meditation, and I was just told that the children who really, really need it and would are children who are getting ready to make the transition, that are
Right.
in hospice, that are to go in to be able to, so I hope to work with the child life specialists and
Mm,
take them stories and art and music to give to let these children hear these incredibly beautiful stories about the light and the love and the
right.
animals and the plants, and the stories are all from very scientific studies that have been done,
Yeah.
hospitals with children and at home. But I mean, how beautiful that would be. And you're kind of talking about the
Wonderful.
same thing with just, children in general. I hope we're starting to go a little bit more in that direction where kids
Yeah.
get more of that. Yeah.
I feel like it actually, there is that movement. And I think that's actually, for sure, North America and Europe. And I'm sure it's beyond, that there is that sharing of, the world we call unseen. And in
Right.
that, offering the comfort of, and the reassurance and validation. And yeah, through the stories, I think there was a recent, there was a recent Netflix series that had a couple of episodes on the NDE, the near death experiences.
Yes,
Um,
surviving death. Yes. Uh-huh.
yeah. And then another one, I'm sure you're very familiar. I think she's so brilliant and lovely. The Dying to Be Me by Anita Morjani.
Oh, yes, yes.
Oh my
I
goodness. Well, she's brilliant, and her experience was like, I mean, the sharing of that story has just, it's helped, and it made its way to so many people. And her
absolutely.
new book, which I'm not here to promote anybody, but
No, no, I didn't know she had a new book.
she's got a new book, Marla, that actually I think that a lot of the young kids will actually identify with, and I've shared it with a lot of people. And you can get it, the audio version, and she narrates it, and it's called "Sensitive is the New Strong," and it's about life as an empath. And so taking things, the insight and information and support and understanding of the sensitive and the empath is, we have so much more information. And so, bringing that into our schools, we're seeing little tidbits, and some of our teachers are braving that and introducing it into their classroom. And I mean, that thrills me.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to
I
get that. Her name has literally been brought up in the last 3 or 4 interviews I've done. So
Right.
I definitely need to reach out to her. Yes,
Oh,
yes,
no kidding.
schedule
Wow.
an interview with her. Well, Kevin, we need to wrap it up, but what would you like to shout to the world?
Oh, wow. That's a big one. How much time do we have?
Take as much time as you want.
Oh boy. We're in we're in an interesting place in time. And in that, we are so individual, and yet we have this ability to look beyond ourselves, go back to ways of, taking care of our land, our animals, nature, each other, our neighbor. We've just got, in my opinion, so far off track. And if we could just, look beyond ourselves in this very moment, and remember that people have their own story. And sometimes it's a lot harder than you'd ever imagine. But just being there, and I think, following what you're passionate about, we can change our minds. We don't have to have everything planned from A to Z. I mean, I learned that, day in, day out, how I think things are going to be in my life. There's a plan and I follow it. And sometimes the more I resist, the more, it gets louder in my life, and I finally will listen. But that we're also in a really good place. And we have so many opportunities, and we have so many resources that we can, connect with each other in ways that we never, used to be able to. And that there's support, and there's people that are there to help us along our way, and sharing our story, even though sometimes it's uncomfortable. And it takes something to actually show up, that on the other side of all of that is just such joy and love. So yeah, I think that's it.
Very well said. Thank you. So Kevin, if people want to find you, I know you're working on your website. So
Yeah.
why don't you give us the name of that, and also how to reach you if someone wants to learn more or schedule a reading or something like that?
Perfect. So on social media, Facebook and Instagram, I am the Healing Medium. So Kevin Lewis, the Healing Medium. And for email, which is probably the quickest and the best, would be info@thehealingmedium.ca. You can reach me there, and I'd love to connect with you.
Yeah. I guess Facebook these days, do you really need a website?
Right? That's the big question. Actually, that's what the coaching was yesterday. I was like, I want to throw the website in the garbage. Am I making a big mistake? That's actually what it was. It's funny you say that.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you so much.
Marla.
So good to see you again. And let's definitely do this again. I'd really enjoy that.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
Okay.
I can't wait to see you in person too.
I know,
and
right?
reconnect that way.
Definitely have to another workshop together. Okay,
absolutely.
Love you lots.
Yeah, love you too. Blessings, Marla. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening in today. If you want to learn more about the show, you can find us at interviewswithinnocence.com and on Facebook or Instagram at Interviews with Innocence. Please write me a message, tell me what you liked, and let me know what else you would like to hear. I would love to hear from you. And if you liked what you heard, please leave us an iTunes rating and review. It helps other listeners find the show. Thank you.